Okay.
Hi, friends. I'm Beth McMullen,
And I'm Lisa Schmid.
and we're the co hosts of Writers with Wrinkles. This is season 5, episode 23. And today we're excited to welcome author Wendelin Van Draanen to the show. Wendelin is an international award winning, best selling author of more than 30 novels, including her Edgar-winning Sammy Keyes mystery series and Flipped, which became a Rob Reiner-directed Warner Bros. Feature film. Her latest novel is a first love romantasy titled Ghosted, which School Library Journal says captures the ache and wonder of love that transcends worlds. Ghosted releases October 6th. That sounds so good to me. If you're looking at the video of this, you can see the cover behind you there, it's bringing me, what's the vampire series that was so popular?
Twilight?
Yes,
Twilight?
the cover is bringing me Twilight vibes.
Interesting. What I have recently seen the finished cover for the book, which is coming out in October, and it is so awesome because they've given it a metallic finish. So if you tilt it one way, it's all shiny silver, and if you tilt it another way, it's all shadowy darkness.
See?
Awesome. Yeah.
That is great. I
Yeah.
mean, we're just looking at the flat image and it looks amazing.
I'm so excited about this cover and about this book coming out.
Good. It sounds fantastic. So we know you, Lisa and I both know you through slightly different channels. You and I were on a book tour together a bunch of years ago with Chris Grabenstein, who's of course wonderful too. And Lisa met you at a book festival not that long ago. And when she said your name, I was like, I know her. We did a whole thing together. But you guys have some stories of the book festival. And I think that would be of interest to our listeners.
Well, it's funny because we had done that one episode about the whole escapades of the book festival that I did. And it was my first book festival. And there was all the drama surrounding it. And it involved this one indie bookstore. And so then I get an email from Wendelin who was like, oh my God, I was there. I'm sure you have PTSD just like I do from it. And she had the exact same experience with this bookseller. And one of the things I just have to interject, because I have an addendum to the story that recently happened that just adds insult to injury. But I remember when I was leaving, I saw a line to go see you. And all I can think of, like when you said that she had done the same thing to you about not carrying your book and storming out and leaving the book festival, is that I was like, oh my God, she missed out on all those sales.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to yourself? Anyway, but I digress. You must have been thinking the same thing.
And avid reader Davis is the bookstore that came to the rescue, and they found out that this other bookstore that was supposed to be carrying my books brought in one copy, and they overnighted 2 cartons of them, and I think they sold them all. So
Yeah, that's amazing. So if anybody needs to hear the whole story, go back and listen to the episode.
It's a great story.
I've never been paid or reimbursed for the books that she sold that I brought my own inventory. Never been paid. And at this point, I'm just like, you know what? I've written it off and I just don't even want to mess with it anymore. Well, so then all of a sudden I get this email out of the blue about I have a book that this bookstore, because she had taken one copy of one of my books and said, I think I can sell this. And I'm like, just take it, whatever. And so I guess she decided that she didn't want to sell it. And so somebody had gone, and it happened to my friend too. Like she had given her a few copies or whatever. So then all of a sudden we get this email saying, I have a copy of your book from Books and to return to you. If you want it, you can meet me in Sacramento or somewhere in Folsom. And I'm just thinking, so now I have to go to get a copy of my book, like a drug deal in a parking lot. Like cracking up. I'm like, you know what? Please just put it in a little free library someplace. Like I don't, but I just thought that just adds the insult to injury. It's my God, woman, just sell the book or just keep it in the shop before that's,
why are we still talking about this?
Right.
Like, why are we still having a conversation about a single book?
Right.
It's been 4 months.
Yes.
This thing has just dragged on and on. But I tell you what, it's been really good for authors bonding because all of us had the same experience, and it's given us appreciation for each other and what we put up with.
Yeah.
sometimes. When it goes well, it goes really well. And when it goes bad, wow. Although I have to say, for all the years that I've been doing this, I've never had an experience this bad.
And I
That's
think when it
meaningful. If the a new bar was set that low,
Yeah.
that's bad.
It's at
I
ground
will-
level. That bar
Yeah.
is
It
at
is
ground
ground
level. You
level.
can't go any lower than that.
And
Yeah, it
the
was
thing
bad.
about that's so good and why we share these is because so many times I'll see authors post something about, I was at an event and nobody showed, or they didn't have my books and this and that. And we all feel so isolated that these things are just happening to us. No, they're happening to all of us.
Right.
And so if you have a situation where it's not going as planned or you're having just something unpleasant, just know you're not alone.
And the thing about online presence is we all try to put our best foot forward, and we all try to do the optimistic sunny
Right.
book. And sometimes when you're not having an optimistic sunny day and you see an author posting an optimistic sunny post again, you just feel like, so it's good to also share the things that maybe didn't go so well. So
Yeah. Just listen to our show. We talk about them all the time.
Yeah, it's the primary thing that people reach out about because we are so concerned about presenting this put together, professional, got it all going on, personality onto social media and videos and whatever. And then in the background, you're like, wow, they wanted me to drive 25 miles to pick up one book. It's crazy.
And they were so nice. And this was somebody who's in the organization. They were doing this as a favor. This was somebody nice who's like, yeah, I went and got this book, your book, and I want to return it to you. And I don't expect them to drive to my house. They were being nice.
Right.
This is not on the book festival people. This is on that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny.
I will say that Avid Reader Davis is my home indie. I actually live in Davis, California, and they're great. I've done a ton of events with them over the years, and they have never screwed up. So cheers to them. That's the silver lining. For every stinker of a store, there's one that's really amazing.
I always thought a lot of Avid Reader Davis, but the best thing that could have happened to them is the comparison between what they are and the alternate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because in contrast is, oh my gosh, this bookstore is
Yeah.
wonderful.
They were awesome. And they sold some of my books because I was like hawking my books all around trying to figure out what to do with them. And yeah, they sent me a check within days where they were amazing. And yeah, just that's the kind of business owner you want to be.
Yeah. And their store is always packed. People know they do a good job. Okay, we could dish about book festivals and how they go sideways all day long, but let's get into some good questions for you. I think we are excited to have you there because you have written so many books, 30, more than 30. What's the actual total now?
So Ghosted is number 40.
Number 40.
Number 40.
Wow.
And it's my 30th year. So it feels like, wow, I used to be the new kid, and then I just work. I don't know if it's my immigrant parent upbringing, but I'm very much a nose to the grindstone kind of person. And so when I have something that I've started, I will just work on it until I finish it. And then I have this lull where I miss writing for 2 weeks while I clean the house, no wonder. And then I'll start on something else. So I've just been writing consistently and pretty much constantly for 30 years.
Wow.
How long does it take you to write a book on the average?
So like Ghosted, it was in my head for 10 years and I didn't know how to end it. So the actual writing, when you sit down at your keyboard and start producing words, that's really not representative of how long it takes to write a novel because it's all that thinking that you've done to create the whole vibe of the story and what's going to happen. And so for Ghosted, it's been like 10 years on a back burner trying to come up with an ending that I liked. And once I hit the ending, once I thought of the ending, then I got to work. And it takes me about diligent work. It takes me about 9 months to a year to write a 300-page novel. And then I revise as I go. But then I do the revision afterwards, which takes quite a bit of months and months as well before I send it in.
Do you ever have two going at the same time?
No.
Are you
I'm
okay?
like, yeah, I'm in the story. My emotions are in the story. My whole brain power goes into the story. And so it would be distracting the way that my brain works.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm all in. So no.
So let's talk a little bit first about the Sammy Keyes books. Those are your Edgar-winning award mystery series, and I've actually read a bunch of those. They are wonderful.
Thank
So
you.
I think you must have said somewhere, because I found this fact, that you wrote 4 of them before a publisher said, yes, we want to have these. You going through those rejections? Because a lot of times people will write 1, maybe 2 of a series that they've conceived, and if nobody's saying yes, they move on to something else, or they abandon it or give up all hope or whatever it is. So what kept you going through that?
I just loved spending time with Sammy. She's like the friend that I wish I'd had when I was in middle school. And I was at this time also a full-time teacher. And just being immersed in the whole school situation as a teacher helps remind you of what it was like as a student and a growing teen, and just how hard that can be, how emotionally wrecked you can be. And so I wrote the first one and I was sure somebody would love it in New York. It has a very much a California sensibility to it because I live in California. And so before they could send me rejections, I had already started on the second one. And when the rejections came in for the first one, I'm like, oh, wait till you read this. And then you're going to understand what I'm doing. And so I finished the second one, but I had an idea for a third one. So while I was waiting for them to say yes, because of course they were going to love this story, I had this third idea. And so I wrote that. And then when they got back to me with the rejections about the second one, I'm like, but wait till you read this. And then I sent the third and wrote the fourth. And so this all takes time, full-time job, 2 little kids, just getting up super early in the morning to write a little bit on a story. And just, so there was that process. So I was naive, but there was also the feeling that we call it putting hope in the mail. It's like, okay, I've sent this next thing. So maybe I'm filled with the hope of an idea that you will actually like this, and I'll wear you down. And so that's part of what kept me going. And it was just, I really loved the character and I loved spending time with her. And I think that it wasn't a chore for me to do these stories. It was more like, oh, I get to escape into Sammy Keyes' world and spend some time battling Heather Acosta and just working out my middle school drama on the page. It was just a kind of a joyful thing. And I just kept at it long enough to get a yes.
Who ended up picking it up? What happened that you finally got the book deal?
You need to find someone who sees the world the way you do and maybe understands your sense of humor and your irreverence or whatever it is that you're putting on the page. And so I found that person. Her name's Nancy Cisco, and she was the editor for the entire Sammy Keyes series. And we have had so many great laughs together just about Sammy. It's like we grew up together in publishing. When I first sent the first thing to her, she was an associate editor. So she wasn't a full-blown editor, but she had some publishing successes and became a full-on editor. And now she's climbed up the corporate ladder. So she's in a pretty high position now. And we say we grew up together in publishing because she took a risk on me, and that worked out for both of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, resilience does pay off.
Which book did they end up reading to buy? Was it that 4th one, or was it were you saying here's all of them at that point? I'm just curious if it was the 4th one that they were like, yeah, this has got legs.
So this editor she had read the first one, the second one. I had fed them to her in a row. And she was trying, because her position, I think her acquisition ability wasn't where it needed to be for her to purchase this yet. She really wanted to. She was really into mystery. And then she wound up having big success with another book that allowed her to switch publishing houses And when she switched publishing houses, she said they let her do what she wanted to do. And she said, I want to buy all 4 of these Sammy Keyes books, and with the option to write more. So we have 18 books in this series, and the Sammy Keyes characters evolve from book to book. She grows up a month at a time from book to book, which people ask me, how'd you write 18? And it's because I was just following her through her life. So things evolve, characters evolve, relationships change, and they all grow. And that was really, I think, instrumental in me keeping it fresh and keeping it fresh for me to write, as opposed to, oh gosh, I'm under contract to write another Sammy Keyes. No, it was never like that. It was like, I can't wait to get back to Sammy Keyes.
I love that convention of 1 month of growth or timeline shift per book, because you think about if you had started off and said, I'm going to make it 6 months or a year, you never could have done 18 of them.
Right.
So were you thinking in terms of, I'm going to write 18 of these books, or were you just thinking that lets me stay with her really
It was
in a
an
pretty easy-
accident. It
or
was
an accident?
it was a complete like I said, I was naive. Okay. So in Sammy world, this happens, that Sammy Keyes and the Hotel Thief happens the first week of 7th grade. And so the next book, so that's September-ish. And then we have October, which is Halloween, and so much fun. And so she and her friends do this stuff on Halloween. There's a big mystery and thrill. And then the next month after that there's Thanksgiving. So in her life, what's happening in Thanksgiving. So it just evolved that way. And the 4th book was a Christmas book. And I'm like, oh, she's growing up a month at a time from book to book. And what's it going to take to get her out of middle school? So that's going to be a good 18 books.
You know what's
I thought I could just do that. It's the way it was contracted. It wasn't, oh, Wendelin, we're going to sign you up for 18 books. It was, we'll do it 2 at a time, see how it goes. And so we do the 2, and then we do 2 more. And so that's how we got to 18.
It's funny.
Amazing.
I was just talking about this with a friend the other day, how often there's so much serendipity with writing, things that you don't really plan, but then they work out for you. Planning that, but somehow you set it up that way, and that's just serendipity. You weren't meaning to, but look at how well it worked out.
Yeah, it's really true. When I started, I just was going to write a mystery. But then I'm really glad Sammy was the kind of kid I just really loved spending time with.
So what changed once that clicked for you? What evolved from that?
So the blessing of not getting picked up right away by a publisher was that I did get to figure out what I was doing. So 4 books in, you realize, oh, this has to happen with the mother. This has to be the situation with these friends. This is her Scooby Gang. So what I did is I went back to the first one and I shored up everything. So by the time the Sammy Keyes and the Hotel Thief came out, it had the benefit of me knowing Sammy World much better and being able to reinforce things that would happen later in the series based on that I had already written more in the series. And also, they were able to establish it as a series quickly because instead of 1 a year, they came out every 6 months at the beginning. And then I was on a schedule of every 9 months. The next one would come out too. And you're only in middle school for 3 years or so. And so when you have books coming out, you lose your readers. They grow up, right? So you need to keep moving forward at a pace where the new readers can catch up.
Did you ever feel pressure? That's a lot to write in that 9-month period. Were you feeling pressure with it?
So I always loved coming back to Sammy. But when I say that, what that implies is that I was doing other stuff. And besides being a full-time teacher, and besides raising these 2 little kids and keeping house and doing all those things, I would get an idea. So I got the idea for Flipped. And Flipped became this obsession for me, where I just had this, what I thought was a very clever idea, where the boy gets a chapter, the girl gets a chapter, and they tell their perspectives of the same events. I became obsessed with writing this story, and I had to write it in a time frame that allowed me to meet my Sammy Keyes deadline. I didn't have a contract for Flipped. I had an idea that I just buckled down and wrote. And then I sent it to the editor of the Sammy Keyes and got back to work on Sammy Keyes. So then that's a standalone book that came out. And then I went, so I write another Sammy Keyes. And then I went and did school visits like in Birmingham, Alabama. And I had this idea for this book, Swear to Howdy. Was an expression that they used during this very extensive school visit time that I spent there. And so I became obsessed. I need to write this story before the next Sandy. Okay, so I wrote this book, no contract. I just had to get this story out. And I sent it to my editor, and then I got back to Sammy Keyes. But so when I say it was always so nice to get back to Sammy Keyes, I think what the situation really is that I got to write something else. So I got a break from it. And so it's like a friend. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. Come on, let's chat. So you get back together with them. And so that's how I wound up with 40 books in 30 years. So I'm a little obsessive. But also having the deadline for the Sammy Keyes made me fit these other books, which were not under contract. I just wrote them because I loved the idea and I wanted to get it out of me.
Creates a nice structure to have that actual deadline. You can self-impose a deadline because you know you only have so much bandwidth to do this thing, to do this idea, because you've got to get back to the one that the editor is sitting there waiting for. So,
Right.
I mean, and you're obviously a very disciplined writer. That's what kind of comes through at the bottom of this. You have got to be amazingly disciplined to be able to say, I've got this idea, I've got this amount of time to get it out, I'm getting it out, done. Other stuff I'm contracted for. So we want to bottle some of that and sell it, if you don't mind.
Just, I don't know. I always go back to my parents, and there was always work to do. So
Yes. Yes, it has served you very well. You mentioned Flipped. That became a Rob Reiner film.
Yes.
So we love to talk about books to movies. What surprised you the most about handing your precious little story, your little baby, we are very attached to our books, over to somebody else to tell their version of it? And how much say did you have, if any, in that process?
So I'm going to back up and share that I had a previous movie experience with my book, Shredder Man. Nickelodeon turned it into their first made-for-TV movie. And that was a fun experience. I got to take my kids down to where they were filming it, and they had been a fan of the actor who stars in Declassified School Survival Guide. And he was the star of Shredder Man. And so they got to meet him, and that was all super fun. The process for that was that the first part of the movie that they did was pretty close to the book. And the second half was completely Hollywood. It was so different than the book. And I learned to separate my creation from their adaptation. And I think there's a certain amount of grace involved in allowing people who make movies, they know their audience, they know what they're doing. I'm not going to micromanage them, but it's hard. Okay. It's hard to see it changed that much. So I had already had that experience. And I had already learned the grace that you need for an adaptation and knowing what you get into. So when Rob Reiner called me and discussed turning Flipped into a movie, he said all the right things. He said, I read the book. Okay, that's not something you hear a lot from people in Hollywood. I read the book. I loved the book. Why would I mess with a book? This is what he said. And he asked me about what I thought about certain things. He wanted to know how I felt about setting it in the 50s and 60s, where I had written it as a more contemporary story. He gave me his reasons for that. And I thought, you need to have grace about this. It's okay. It turns out that his doing that has actually been really beneficial for the film because it made it what people call an instant classic. So instead of trying to keep up with the cell phone of the times and feeling dated because the characters are dialing instead of tapping or whatever, he set it back far enough that he didn't have to deal with any of that. So it's like a period piece. So that was the big change. And then he sent me the script, and the script was just like the book, the dialogue straight out of the book. It was just like the book, including the ending, which I'd been getting fan mail for years about the ending of Flipped. And I love the ending of Flipped. It's just this wonderful, hopeful, the future is wide open to these two kids and love awaits. Not so much from my readers who are demanding a sequel. And I write them all back and I explain about the hopeful, the bright sunshine of the future, but they have their issues. So I had been writing them back and I'd been telling them that Hollywood was going to make a movie out of it. And I'm sure they would do the Hollywood thing to it, which is change the ending and have basically what these kids all want is to see Bryce and Julie kiss. And it alludes to that at the end of the book, but it's not there. And when I read the script, and it's just like the book, I'm like, this can't be. So
I'm going to get in trouble.
I made an appointment with Rob Reiner and I drove down to LA and I had a meeting with him. And basically I was there to convey the thoughts from readers across America about this. And so what I said is, I have an idea. You could have the credits going by. Because the whole point is that these two characters need to get to know each other and know themselves before they become entwined emotionally, right? That's good advice for all of us. So I said, what you could do is having Bryce and Julie era things, like riding bikes and flying kites and getting to know each other and while the credits roll by. So after the end of the movie, you have this going on and the credits are rolling by. And then at the very end, you can have the two characters kiss because that's what kids across America want to see. So he listened very nicely and then went out and did precisely what he wanted, which was stick to the book. So how many authors can say they've had this kind of experience? Not very many. He was like, it's just an amazing director. I got to spend time on location in Michigan where they filmed it. And he was so good with the kids. He was just amazing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He seemed like such a wonderful man. And that was just an enormous tragedy all around. He was so talented with your film and all of his other films. They all have that real, genuine empathy coming through. So what a terrible loss.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful you have this movie.
I do.
You have that piece.
I feel so fortunate that he was the one that, because it had been optioned before many times. It's yes until it's no. In books, it's no until it's yes. So just if you're a writer and someone who has been getting a lot of no's, know that when they say yes, they really mean it. And unlike Hollywood, it's all behind it. They're all for it. They're all like, yes, we'll do this thing. No, we can't. So the fact that I have had two properties turned into movies, I recognize that's like the stars have aligned for me twice. And with the whole Rob Reiner and Flipped project, it's an experience that I will never duplicate. And I just treasure that I've had this really wonderful expansion to my work, because now I get the most wonderful communications from people like in China and the Philippines and just everywhere.
And it says so much about him that he kept it the way I've had a bunch of my stuff optioned. Nothing has ever made it past that enthusiastic yes to no.
Yeah.
But I remember one conversation where this young director was like, I have the greatest idea. And then was like, the only thing they were going to keep was the title. Be able to remove yourself as the person who is going to direct this movie enough to get out of the way of the work that has already resonated so much, many people. That shows a lot of confidence.
Yeah. And I think that it is a very common situation where the author just feels a little chagrined at how things turned out. And I feel really fortunate to have none of that. Even with Shredder Man, I'm saying it's his own thing. It's fun. Kids really liked it at the time. So, that says something right there.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're going to jump back to books now. And you've published your entire career with Knopf. And Knopf, is that right?
Oh, they say the Knae.
Knopf?
It's Knopf.
Knopf.
Enough. Yeah.
Knopf.
Okay, Knopf. So you've published your entire career with Knopf and Random House imprints. What's kept that relationship working over the last 2 decades?
So my latest 2 books, The Steps and Ghosted, are distributed by Random House, but they are published by Holiday House.
Wow.
All the other books prior to that and a picture book that's coming out in January are all through Knopf. And the common denominator and the reason for that is my editor there. She's the one that we grew up in publishing together. So I would say that having that relationship with her has been the reason that so much of my work has been there.
It
That's
feels
amazing.
really
So-
rare these days, doesn't it? It feels
Oh.
rare to have somebody go book after book with the same imprint because the editors move around a lot, or the imprint folds, or somebody absorbs the whole bunch of them. It
Yeah.
is pretty unusual.
And again, I do count my blessings about this because I know it is rare, and I really treasure my relationship with Nancy. It's been, like I said, we grew up in publishing together, and I just feel like she's a lifelong friend. So, but publishing has done a lot of changing over the years, and there has been compression after compression, and it's a different situation now than it was when Sammy Keyes got started. It hasn't, I think publishing hasn't gotten any easier.
No. This relationships feels very old school, and it reminds me because this is so unheard of. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who stayed with an editor. You have a prolific career and you've stayed with this person, but that sounds like something from a movie where you see
Well-
like, I'm meeting my editor in New York
Yes.
and where's the next chapter?
So she is amazing, but also I tried for 10 years to get published, and she's the one that fished me out of the slush pile. And after I won the Edgar and there's a big buzz about me and all that stuff, I could have gone elsewhere with my other books. I could have said, I've got the Sammys with Nancy, and I'm just going to go see how much money I can get elsewhere because I could have gotten some good money. And after Flipped came out and was such a huge success, I could have just gone to my agent and said, see how much you can get somewhere else. But I feel like you need to dance with the one who brought you. So she and I have been doing this dance for many years, and I just have never felt that I was in a limousine once with a very well published novelist of the middle grade variety. And
I
he
love your
informed-
careful choice of words.
he informed me
too.
that it's a business. You got to look out for yourself. You got to look out for number one. And there is some truth to that. It is a business. And you have to acknowledge that these publishing houses are no longer there to nurture your ego. They are there to make a profit. It doesn't have to be a huge profit, but they're there to make a profit. It's a business. So there is some truth to that advice, but I just think that for me as a person, it's the wrong advice. It's like in my stories, it's about the characters. Even though Sammy Keyes' stories are mysteries and they're adventure books, it's really about the relationships between friends. And so I feel like I need to live my life in a way that I present in my books, where friendship is important. And even if it's partly business, or even if there's this definite business component to it, the friendship, the things that you've built together, the things that this editor has helped you achieve, it's not all you. It's your partnership with your silent partner, the editor. And you need to respect that and not just toss it aside and think, okay, I'm hot stuff now and I'm going to go get more money elsewhere. That's just not me.
It kind of mirrors how you tell the story about how this editor had a success and then went somewhere else and then was given the red carpet treatment, whatever you want, and you're what she wanted. So there's that those choices for both of you. She
Right.
chose you when she had success, and you chose to stay with her when you had success.
Right.
I mean, have beautiful author, editor stories. So that
Yeah.
is, so you mentioned Hope in the Mail a little bit earlier as just the idea that when we drop our stuff off into the universe and it goes out, we have this little bit of hope. But you also wrote a book that came out in 2020. I saw it called, similar to Bird by Bird, the Anne Lamott book for YA readers and writers, and it's part memoir, part writing guide. So what made you want to tell your own story alongside of craft advice instead of just doing like a straight? So what made you take that two-pronged approach?
I think it's because in my 10 years of rejection, there had to be something that kept me going. And because you want to hang in there long enough to get that yes. And very often we become discouraged or we turn to alternate avenues of publication. We just feel like it's just too hard and there are too many barriers. We just lose our fire for sticking to the plan. And having been someone who kind of walks in the shoes of a lot of people who are emerging writers, where you've got a family that you're trying to pay good attention to. Maybe you've got an outside job that requires a lot of your time and energy. And how do you fit writing into your life? So how you fit it into your life, I think, is just as important as the craft, because the craft you can learn, but the finding of the time and the encouragement that you get from reading a book like Hope in the Mail will propel you to become a better writer, a more diligent writer, someone who pursues with a consistency this dream that they have. So it's Hope in the Mail is just, my intention for it is just to encourage people who don't have the luxury of wide open days, or and just to find the discipline to stick to it long enough to reach that goal, whatever it is that you've set for yourself. And that's the whole concept. It's you need to generate the work, and then you need to put it out there so someone can say yes to you. And every time you put something out there, it's a vulnerable feeling. This is your heart you've put on the page. And people might just totally ignore it. They might come back and criticize it somehow. There's going to be all sorts of negativity coming back at you unless you are the exception. And so if that's the case, we need to find some way to keep hope in our heart. And so my advice is you need to keep putting hope in the mail, metaphorically, email, whatever, so that you have hope in your heart that someone can say yes to you.
That's like perfect advice, right? Because you need and keep sending it out there, because you're 100% right. If it's not out there, no one can ever say yes.
And giving little tips for how to work that in, or how you can juggle it all, or just that becoming a finisher and what that means to you as a writer. Because I think lots of times we start on something, we get discouraged, we'll start on something else. And I think it's super important to find the mechanism to become a finisher.
Yes. That is something I have struggled with my whole career. Even when I think I've got it under control, I still have that moment where I'm like, wait a minute, you can't start that yet. You're not done with that.
Okay.
So thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today. This was a real treat. I loved hearing all of your stories. I loved hearing your advice. So thank you again for coming. We are very grateful. I know our listeners are going to love this episode.
We actually do religiously listen to it. My husband Mark is also a YA writer. And so for lunch, because this is all we do. So at our little lunch break, we'll have lunch, we'll do a hand of rummy, and we'll listen to you guys. So we multitask. See, that's how we make the most of each day. So
I love this image.
That's what we do. We eat, we play rummy, and we listen to Writers with Wrinkles.
Oh my gosh, that is so wonderful. So say thank you to Mark from us as well. Glad you're enjoying. So listeners, remember, you can find out more about Wendelin and all that she is up to by visiting our podcast notes and the blog at writerswithwrinkles.net. Ghosted is out October 6th, but it is up for pre-order now. So go and reserve your copy so you don't miss out when it releases. I'm very excited for this one. I just love the story. So I'm getting mine. And we
Thank
will be
you.
back next time with an Ask Beth and Lisa episode. So if you have questions, thoughts, feelings, please send them our way. And until next time, happy reading, writing, and listening.